Okay, be honest. Have you ever found yourself suddenly organizing your sock drawer or, I don't know, color-coding your inbox when you absolutely should be finishing a huge project? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're taking a really fun, mind-bending look, complete with some stickman animation, at a universal human struggle, why we consistently delay our most important work. We're not just throwing another to-do list at you today. We're going to break down the actual, literal math and neuroscience of motivation.
We all know this feeling, right? Why do we constantly put things off until the literal 11th hour? I mean, think about that totally familiar, completely anxiety-inducing experience of the midnight deadline rush. You might have had weeks, maybe even months to do something, yet somehow, predictably, you find yourself fueled by pure panic and cold caffeine at 2 a.m. the night before it's due. It's incredibly frustrating, it leaves you exhausted, and honestly, it kind of feels like a personal failure. But I have some absolutely incredibly good news for you.
Here's the massive aha moment for today's explainer. Procrastination, it isn't laziness. It is literally a mathematical equation occurring right there in your brain. Just let that sink in for a second. We really need to shift the blame away from this idea of a moral failing or a lack of willpower and look at the biological and mathematical calculations your brain is running in the background every single second. You aren't fundamentally broken, okay? Your brain is simply doing exactly what it evolved to do over millions of years.
To truly understand this, we have to look at this epic neurological tug-of-war happening inside your head. On one side, we've got the limbic system. This is your brain's ancient evolutionary emotional center. It acts fast, and it is absolutely obsessed with securing instant pleasure and avoiding any immediate pain. Then, on the other side, we have the prefrontal cortex. This is the newer, logical, advanced part of your brain that actually cares about your long-term goals and your future. So when you procrastinate, that ancient emotional brain is simply overpowering your modern logical brain. It is demanding immediate relief from the discomfort of a difficult task.
So how do we predict which part of the brain is actually going to win that battle on any given day? Well, enter temporal motivation theory, or TMT for short. Developed by researchers Piers Steele and Cornelius Koenig, TMT is essentially the master decoder ring for our bad habits. It's an integrative framework that perfectly deconstructs our chronic delays. And it proves, mathematically, that motivation isn't some fixed personality trait, it's a dynamic, ever-changing state that shifts minute by minute based on the specific characteristics of the task in front of you.
And that brings us to the secret procrastination equation itself. Here's how it works. Motivation equals expectancy times value divided by impulsiveness times delay. This single, elegant formula calculates whether you're going to sit down and take action or endlessly scroll social media. The top half of the equation, expectancy and value, drives us forward. Think of that as your engine. The bottom half, impulsiveness and delay, holds us back. Those are your brakes. If the bottom half is larger than the top half, boom, you procrastinate. It really is that simple.
So there are 4 distinct variables constantly pulling at your attention here. Expectancy is your core confidence that you can actually succeed at the task. Value is how rewarding or enjoyable the task is. Impulsiveness is your personal level of distractibility. And delay is exactly what it sounds like, how far away the deadline is. Procrastination strictly occurs when a task has low expectancy, low immediate value, extended delays, or when you're dealing with high personal impulsivity. Let's break these down one by one so you can see exactly where you're getting stuck. First up, expectancy. This is essentially the psychological battle between confidence and self-doubt. When you look at a task and the metaphorical steps seem just impossibly steep, your expectancy absolutely plummets. If you don't have a clear mental model of how to actually reach the top, or if your brain anticipates failing, well, it kills your motivation before you even take the first step. If you deeply believe your effort isn't going to lead to a good result, the top half of our equation shrinks drastically, and your drive, it completely vanishes. Next is value. We humans are biologically wired to seek out high-value rewards. But listen, value isn't just about a big paycheck or a perfect grade. It's also about enjoyment. If a task is boring, overly complex, or just lacks any immediate joy, like doing your taxes, it carries incredibly low value. And what does your brain do? It pushes that tedious task aside to hunt for quick dopamine hits. Checking your notifications or watching a funny stickman animation online, that provides high, immediate, effortless value. Your brain naturally chooses the path of least resistance.
But the really crucial point here is how time totally messes with our perception of that value. We call this hyperbolic discounting.
It's our biological tendency to heavily undervalue future rewards in favor of short-term temptations. Because of hyperbolic discounting, a distant reward, like getting a promotion next year or getting an A+ on a test next month, loses almost all of its value in your brain compared to the instant gratification of watching a funny video right now. Your brain basically says, sure, an A+ is great, but that sounds like a future me problem. Present me wants to laugh.
Notice how your pacing style perfectly reflects a sharp, hyperbolic curve based on this exact phenomenon. Think about it. 1 month out from a deadline, the delay variable is massive, so your motivation is practically zero. 1 week out, you feel a slight twinge, so it climbs a bit. But 1 hour out, the delay drops to nearly zero. The denominator in our procrastination equation basically vanishes, and your motivation surges exponentially. This is exactly why you suddenly find that superhuman laser focus to write a 10-page paper in a single night. Panic sets in, and the immediate value of avoiding utter failure skyrockets.
But what if you're a naturally distractible person? Well, if you have high impulsiveness, you have an extreme sensitivity to delay. For highly impulsive people, that hyperbolic curve is even steeper. You suffer from a massive intention-action gap. You make genuinely great plans, you fully intend to do the work, but that deep pit between your intention and your action means you constantly reverse your preferences the absolute second a distraction appears. You're just highly attracted to whatever is nearby, shiny, and accessible.
Okay, so we've clearly diagnosed the problem here. You are actively fighting millions of years of evolution, a limbic system hungry for daily dopamine, and a literal mathematical equation that heavily favors delay. No wonder it's hard. So how do we hack the equation to actually beat procrastination? How do we use this neuroscience to trick our brains into doing the hard work? Let's pivot and look at some actionable, science-backed solutions derived directly from this theory.
Here's your logical blueprint for overriding the formula. We have to manipulate these variables in your favor. Step 1. Boost expectancy. Do this by breaking your massive project into tiny, ridiculously easy steps so you know for sure you can succeed. Step 2. Increase value by artificially pairing a boring task with an immediate reward, like sipping your favorite premium coffee. Step 3. Lower impulsiveness by ruthlessly removing distractions. Literally, just put your phone in another room. And Step 4. Shrink the delay. Let's look at 3 specific, powerful techniques to do exactly this.
First up is an absolute classic. Eat that frog. This method is all about tackling your biggest, ugliest, most dreaded task first thing in the morning. Why does this work so perfectly from a math perspective? Because it directly attacks that value deficit. By knocking out the hardest, most anxiety-inducing task immediately, you give yourself a massive surge of accomplishment and momentum. You aren't giving your brain hours to let the delay variable grow, and you completely eliminate that low-level background anxiety that drains your cognitive energy all day long.
Next up is the Pomodoro technique, where you work in focused 25-minute bursts, separated by short 5-minute breaks. Remember the bottom half of our equation? The denominator is impulsiveness times delay? Well, the Pomodoro technique effectively shrinks that delay variable to almost zero. You aren't sitting down with the daunting goal of writing an entire book. You are simply sitting down to focus for just 25 minutes. It creates this artificial, highly immediate deadline that forces an instant motivation spike.
Then we have Parkinson's law. This principle states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Think about it. If you give yourself a week to clean your house, it takes a week. But if you find out guests are arriving in exactly 1 hour, boom, you somehow clean the entire house in an hour. By setting your own artificial, compressed deadlines, you are actively manipulating the equation. You force that hyperbolic motivation curve to spike days or even weeks earlier than it naturally would. As Mark Twain supposedly said, if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse can happen to you. And this brings us full circle right back to the neuroscience. Your ancient limbic system desperately wants to avoid the discomfort of eating that metaphorical frog. But your advanced prefrontal cortex logically knows that once the discomfort is over, long-term success is pretty much guaranteed. Eating the frog is how the logical brain wins the tug of war. You just have to endure a small amount of short-term friction to unlock massive, long-term value. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to apply to your own life today. What is the one absolutely crucial task you are heavily discounting right now? What major long-term goal are you pushing off simply because the delay is too long and the immediate value is too low? Take a hard look at the equation. Identify the specific variable that's acting as your brakes, manipulate it, and take action today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously can't wait to see what you conquer next.